time, $990. The filings reveal disturbing financial irregularities, okay, with Jermaine Shermark. That's how he files it. He doesn't file it under Dr. Umar. It's Jermaine.
They told me to enter my 16-digit card number. I did that. They told me they had no record of my account. They had no record of...
Like, Dr. Umar is not a real person that anybody should be taking any advice from. I hope that we all understand that, but it seems like some folks are...
The FBI just came crashing down on Dr. Umar's empire with federal charges so heavy, he could be staring at decades behind bars. We're talking RICO, tax fraud, and wire fraud, the kind of stuff that ends careers and ruins legacies. And here's the kicker. Prosecutors say they've got receipts linking straight back to the donation money people thought was going toward building his long-promised school. Dr. Umar is shook right now because this isn't something he can just spin with a fiery speech or a quick soundbite. The streets are asking the question nobody thought would ever be this real. Is Dr. Umar a fraud, or is he being set up? But before we dive into the charges, let's rewind to the exact moment he realized he was about to get snatched up, because it was explosive. He jumped on Instagram Live and went into a full-blown meltdown, claiming the system is targeting an innocent black man just trying to uplift his people. The energy was classic Umar, but this time it hit different. He wasn't just putting on a show, he looked rattled, like somebody who just saw his whole empire slipping through his fingers. And the most shocking part, he started ranting about his bank accounts being frozen. Now it all clicks. Those same accounts are at the heart of the Fed's fraud case, the very case that could cage him for the rest of his prime years. What most people didn't realize at the time was that Dr. Umar filmed that wild video right after the Feds told him to turn himself in. If you watch closely, you can literally catch the second it hits him. His entire operation was about to get exposed piece by piece. Reports say Umar eventually did the smart thing and surrendered, but not without some desperate moves first. He made sure his inner circle knew the plan. No cameras, no statements, no media circus, just a quiet walk into federal custody. Why? Because he knew if the world saw him cuffed up, that carefully built image of the people's savior would crumble instantly. His biggest nightmare, being branded a scammer, was closer than ever. But here's the twist he didn't see coming. The Feds had already started leaking documents, and those papers painted a brutal picture of where the money really went. And just when Umar thought he could keep it low-key, Tasha K slid into the scene. And you already know what that means. She came swinging with receipts in hand, blasting him on YouTube for everyone to see. In her breakdown, Tasha ripped into Umar's so-called school, the same one people poured donations into for years without seeing a single classroom open. And guess what? That detail isn't just gossip. The FBI's indictment lists those missing donations as hard evidence in the fraud and RICO case. This wasn't just tea, this was the blueprint for his downfall being read out loud. Tasha didn't just talk, she came with receipts, numbers, and hard proof. According to her, Doctor, Umar has been skimming donations straight into his own pocket, while ducking the IRS by refusing to properly report where the money was going. That's exactly why the Feds are circling, because the math don't lie, and those missing dollars tell a story all on their own. For context, Umar has been begging for funds to build this so-called school for years.
Pan-Africanism, brothers and sisters, I'm back again. While I was on the live, the children had snuck into the school, which means they knew the door was unlocked. Listen to me, brothers and sisters. For children to know that a door is opened, and I was only away from the school for 30 days. For children to know that the door was open, and I was only away from the school for 30 days. For children to know the door was open, and I was only away from the school for 30 days, I wonder when they broke in. I wonder when they broke in, because if the children already know the door was open.
And it's not like he had some savings stacked up and just needed a push from the community. Nope. Every single dollar came from the public. People sacrificed, donated, believed in the dream, but there's still no finished school to show for it. And here's the shadiest part. Umar has never once been transparent about how much money was collected or where it all went. Instead, he pops online, preaching loud and aggressive, telling African Americans to walk away from the public school system and pour money into his project. To a lot of folks, it started looking less like a movement and more like a grift in plain sight. And if you needed another red flag, just look at the school's name. Umar has long claimed to be a descendant of Frederick Douglass, but he's never shown proof. Even wilder, the actual Douglass family has never recognized him as kin. That alone had people side-eyeing the entire operation from day one. Plenty of people didn't see the red flags and still poured their hard-earned cash into Umar's dream, convinced they were helping build a future for the community. But here's the reality. After all these years, the school still hasn't opened its doors. And every single time the deadline gets close, something mysterious pops up to stall the launch yet again. Coincidence? Maybe. But with all the receipts coming out, it looks more like Umar himself has been creating these delays on purpose. Prosecutors are now using these so-called setbacks as evidence that Umar was deliberately manufacturing excuses to cover the trail of missing funds. One example? Back in June, he suddenly reported a case of vandalism at the school, claiming the library's cultural artifacts and educational supplies had been destroyed. But here's what's strange. The actual building wasn't damaged at all. The vandalism was just bad enough to justify why the school couldn't open this year, but not serious enough to require major repairs. To make it look more convincing, Umar even posted a video online where he confronted a group of kids, accusing them of being behind the damage. And the most troubling part? He recorded and shared that clip without the consent of the kids' parents. That move had people furious, and it raised even more questions about just how far he's willing to go to keep this whole—
To IRS Form 990. The filings reveal disturbing financial irregularities, okay, with Jermaine. That's how he files it. He doesn't file it under Dr. Umar. It's Jermaine, okay? Now, the nonprofit shows assets of $634,436 as of 2024. This is what he's saying that he raised. This is what he reported. Okay, now you know he go begging inside of that car without a haircut every other day or on the side of the building in which he lives in, because they say his house is right there on a row house in Philadelphia somewhere. Okay, according to the IRS filings, this is inconsistent reporting of contributions. Okay, now while official filings show that only $321,408 in total contributions over the last 5 years, evidence suggests Johnson raised significantly more through other—
Police couldn't even figure out what really happened that night, and the only evidence of vandalism was Umar's short little clip. And let's be honest, nothing in that video looked serious enough to delay a whole school opening by an entire year. People started side-eyeing the situation, and the questions came flooding in. One viral comment nailed it perfectly. Where's the proof of this so-called damage? Vandalism charges? Were you even insured? Why not show at least one photo? Or is the real vandalism you in this whole project? Another commenter, someone who actually knew banking, called him out for his sloppy story about his frozen accounts, pointing out how flawed his explanation really was. The internet wasn't buying it, and sure enough, a few weeks later, the truth spilled out, and it left Umar cornered with no way to explain it away. Turns out, there was no sinister vandal crew at all. The real problem? Umar hadn't been paying vacant property registration fees or even his utility bills. That mystery delay was just a cover-up for the fact that the school building was actually on the verge of being snatched away. Reports confirmed the property was already facing auction with a deadline set for August 25th, 2025, if those bills didn't get paid. And what did Umar do when the news broke? He went on the defensive, just like always. He tried to flip the script, claiming the fees were punitive and discriminatory, insisting the state was targeting him and trying to force the school to shut down. Then he doubled down, begging for even more donations, playing the victim role once again. Even as the receipts showed, this whole disaster was on him. According to Tasha K, all of Dr. Umar's smoke and mirrors were just stalling tactics to dodge jail time. But if you thought her receipts were wild, the leaked federal documents took it to another level, exposing what's now being called his PayPal scam. That's when it became crystal clear the feds weren't about to let him slide. The leaked report claims Umar pulled in over $1.5 million in donations through GoFundMe and PayPal, supposedly for his school and a string of other charity causes meant to uplift the black community.
The Umar has access to no money right now because my personal account contains all of my money. I only send it to Apple Pay and PayPal as necessary. So the Prince of Pan-Africanism, for the first time in my life, is without any digital currency. So for my loyal supporters out there, if you can spare a few dollars so I can take care of Queen Mother Ifa Tunde and myself until my bank account is frozen or canceled so I can get my money back and open up a new account, please hit my Apple Pay or hit my Pay.
But here's the problem. No one can point to a single thing those causes actually achieved. The money disappeared into thin air, and every time people pressed him about it, Umar dropped another video blaming the system and warning the community not to turn on him. For a while, those guilt trips worked, keeping critics at bay. But then more and more voices started demanding answers he simply couldn't give. Even Charleston White jumped in, blasting Umar for preying on black women through emotional blackmail. He exposed how Umar panders hard, positioning himself as their ally, when in reality, he's just working the angle to get their money. Now, the empire he built on donations, speeches, and promises looks like it's collapsing in real time. And the question is no longer whether the feds are coming, but how long he can keep pretending it's all a setup.
You heard the rumors about Dr. Umar Johnson allegedly being arrested, all because he been scamming and scheming for the past 20 years. He been working on building the school, but he acquired millions and the school's still not up and running.
The wild part is, Charleston White wasn't wrong at all. Dr. Umar loves to parade himself as the ultimate ally to black women, even blasting guys like Jonathan Majors for dating outside the race. But when women dare to question him, suddenly the mask slips, and Umar fires back with insults that expose a whole different side of him. And it's not just the so-called haters speaking up anymore. Even his former supporters are starting to back away. People who once defended him are now quietly pulling their donations, unfollowing him on social media, and demanding answers he refuses to give. Some aren't even quiet about it. They've gone public, flat out calling him a fraud and worse, a possible criminal. But the shocker that really rattled the internet came from someone nobody expected. His close friend and longtime ally, Tariq Nasheed. Tariq sat down with DJ Vlad and for the first time admitted he no longer stood by Umar's vision. At first, he was all in. He truly believed in the Pan-African School Project and even revealed he personally donated a significant amount of money to the cause. That detail matters because it proves even Umar's inner circle once thought this dream was real. But Tariq said the turning point came when Umar started chasing social media clout instead of focusing on the school. The constant drama, conspiracy rants, and attention-seeking moves made Tariq question everything. The final straw? A private falling out after Tariq tried to warn him about losing sight of the mission. Instead of listening, Umar doubled down on the antics. Watching the interview, you could see it in Tariq's face. The respect he once had was gone. Piece by piece, he admitted that Umar wasn't just slipping, he was shady from the ground up. And here's the kicker. While all the what's wild is that the very first strike that put Dr. Umar on the FBI's radar had nothing to do with money at all. Back in 2018, the State Board of Psychology accused him of practicing without a license, a charge that wasn't just embarrassing, it revealed a clear pattern of deception. That accusation is now part of the FBI's bigger case, proving he's been running plays on people for years. As always, Umar denied everything, claiming he was being unfairly targeted. He told his supporters that Facebook and GoFundMe had suspended his accounts for no reason. And he leaned into the victim narrative hard. His rants got sympathy at the time, but behind the scenes, the receipts were already piling up, and they painted a much uglier picture. There are countless videos online where Umar presents himself like a certified shrink, giving psychological advice and flexing authority he never actually had. Those same tactics were what convinced many people to keep donating, believing they were funding an expert with a real plan. And let's not forget, Umar even self-published a book called Psycho-Academic Holocaust, The Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. In it, He argued that mental health diagnoses were being weaponized against black children to hold them back in schools. That gave him credibility in the eyes of many. But years later, Umar went on video flat out claiming ADHD and other mental illnesses aren't real. That contradiction alone exposed him as a liar. But worse, it suggested his schemes weren't just about money. They could actually mislead and harm vulnerable families who trusted his words. His drama was unfolding publicly. The FBI had already been watching Umar for years. He thought he was untouchable, but the whole time, the feds were quietly building their case. And once the feds dug in, the mask completely cracked. Doctor. Umar was nothing like the savior he made himself out to be. Now it's all coming back to haunt him. The phantom school, the frozen accounts, even the phony psychology act. Every single scheme he thought was buried is now front and center as Exhibit A in a federal case. The government isn't letting up. His day one supporters are flipping on him, and the paper trail just keeps getting uglier. Unless he pulls off a miracle, Umar isn't walking back into that so-called academy he's been hyping for years. He's walking straight into a cell with his name on it. This story is far from over, and the fallout is only getting messier. So make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe, because the next chapter in Doctor, Umar's downfall is guaranteed to shock you even more. See you on the next one.